pushing that air through the nasal cavity. In the nasal cavity, well, we actually encounter a lot of things. For example, the hairs of the nose, they're helping to cleanse it, okay? Then inside, we've got sinuses, lined with mucus, help to moisten. We've got these cool little things, these flaps that exist in this nasal cavity. And these little flaps, these concha, they actually flap just a little bit. What they're doing, they are making that air be turbulent, and they're being exposed to the blood source, which is helping to raise the temperature of the air. So that by the time that air passes through these points of the conducting zone, okay, after we pass through the nasal cavity, as we continue to make it into our, as we go through the trachea and all this sort of stuff, by the time it makes it to the actual individual alveolus to reach the blood, we are now at the 98.6. And we haven't altered any of that homeostatic function of the body, because we have to make sure that that 98.6 does happen. Well, wait a minute. What can happen when there's extreme cold situations? And you have the nose and the mouth exposed. Well, gonna run the risk of that nose freezing and lips falling, just saying. But yeah, the air that you take in can be too cold. Okay, therefore contributing to other factors that can happen in the body. But a lot of times when you're in extreme situations like that, a lot of times you're not even, just basically your eyes are closed, and you don't want that if you can't help it. All right. Have y'all seen the nose warmers that somebody has created? Kid you not. Looks like a little diamond-shaped piece of crocheted knit that goes over the nose, and you tie it behind you. Just saying. I saw it, and I was like, and people are paying for it. Just saying. Okay, now, as we begin to look at some of these other areas, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on them, mainly because it's our structure with the system. I'd rather for us to get to the physiology of it, okay? Yes, there is close connections for the openings of the digestive and respiratory system. Have you ever been drinking or eating something and you kind of get choked and you go, oh, it tried to go down the wrong pipe? Okay? Yes, this can happen. All right? A lot of times, as people progress in age, diseases, physical conditions, and so forth, the trachea can begin to collapse. People actually have to go and maybe have the cartilage stretched and all this sort of stuff. And one of the things that'll happen, like with little babies, well, actually people, like throwing up and that sort of thing, you don't want them on their backs because it can aspirate into the lungs.
I think that'll happen too with stroke patients, where they lose their body loses the ability to swallow properly.
And that could be affected because of the epiglottis. When you
epiglottis just doesn't communicate properly, and
And if you look at the structure of these two tubes, our esophagus is muscular and therefore innervated by the autonomic nervous system. So in the case of a stroke, this could be affected. Does that make sense? When we look at our trachea is supported with these cartilaginous rings, okay? And, you know, like if somebody has to have a trach, have you heard of that? A trach tube, okay? Have you ever had to do one, Brian? Insert one? Then you know that you have to determine those particular cartilage and that you cut in between. Yeah, because it is hardened material for the trachea, where the esophagus isn't. The esophagus is muscular based. So there is a close relationship, and this is why now if someone aspirates, have you all ever known someone that aspirated? Did they live, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, they were on the surgical table, and when they were inserting the laryngoscope, they regurgitated and aspirated on, you know, learning to grow up. It's like, obviously shouldn't be surgery, but it was an emergency. Yeah, they lived, but you know, they had suction and everything right there.
Well, you guys know that I tragically lost my son. And about a year later, his best friend, who took it really, really hard, and, you know, not in the best ways, he fell asleep on his back after taking some real heavy, probably, you know, little, I think it was cough medicine or whatever. And when he threw up, he aspirated back into his lungs, but he didn't survive. Yeah. So, you know, what happens is, when the reason this can be so deadly, first, the lungs are not equipped to handle any other material other than exchange of air. Any other foreign matter that gets into these cells, they do not have a plethora of what we would think of as white blood cells to be able to fight anything. So anything that gets in there simply sits and blocks that ability for the air to move. And so it's extremely deadly to people who aspirate. If it's caught in time, the treatment is really long and involved for the treatment of aspiration. And it's the risk that happens with a lot of people, of course, like certain diseases, other breathing conditions, age, stroke, certain areas where this can happen. So aspirating is not, you know, good. But just a couple of things. We do have our nasopharynx that's present, okay? Think of the nose, the nasal area, the pharynx. Think about the tubes. Now, pseudostratified columnar epithelium with goblet cells. Wow. Pseudostratified. Pseudo means what?
False.
False. Stratified, how many layers? One. It looks like there are more, okay, but they're not. Columnar. What shape? The column. They look like tall cells. Goblet cells. They produce mucus. In this system, this respiratory system, these cells, okay, are good at producing mucus because it needs to make sure that anything by way of nose or mouth. Okay. Have you ever stared at the stuff that's flying around in a bright light? The majority of it's what?
Skin.
Skin cells. About 85% of it is the skin cells fluffing, just coming off of anybody in the area. Now, you're doing this number. Okay? You're doing that. So what is it you're breathing in? All of it. Okay? Think about that for a second. But then, what did you just do? You got the stuff that kind of made it down here, okay? That made it past this, okay? Made it past that. All right, got down here, and that the system's going, oh, no. Can't have that. All right, so guess what? You cough it back up, and you swallow it down the esophagus to go to the stomach. Yay!
So how many people do we eat in our lifetime?
But in the stomach, you got a good old acid of about 2, a pH of about 2, which is extremely acidic. Trust me on that. Oh no, I ain't gonna tell y'all right now. Okay, so my husband couldn't believe I had never watched Breaking Bad. Okay, because I was like, no, I've never seen it. So what did he do? He ordered it, and so I watched the first 2 episodes. Have y'all ever seen it? Okay, so y'all know when I said acid, y'all probably know what I mean when I said acid, right? Okay, so hopefully the acid in your stomach, okay, is killing any of the stuff that was bad. Hopefully. So yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. Now, our oropharynx, this is what we share with the digestive system. The laryngopharynx, this is what we share with that esophagus, okay? But also in that larynx area, we've got that ability to help produce sound as the air moves over these vocal cords. So, the structure, you're kind of seeing a structure that is going to be closely related to that digestive system, where we're going to have it close to like ears, nose, and throat, ENTs. Okay, does that make sense? All right, because one of the things that can happen if we think about the ears and the connection to this nasopharynx area, us now as adults, we go into altitudes that we can't handle. Those ears begin to pop. We have the ability to know how to pop them, okay? Little children don't. And the structure is different. Their tubes are straight rather than pointing downward. So we're running a huge relationship with a couple of other areas of the body. As we look at the voice production and structure of the trachea, some of these cartilages are well known, all right? For example, the thyroid cartilage, because of the relationship to the thyroid gland. As you begin to look at the structure of that trachea moving the air down, like I was saying before, it is these cartilage, it's really cool the way the cartilage